ED joins us on the Tuesday Stove, and he is
handsome young man, too. Look at him.
Poolside at the moment. Eric, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning, man. I appreciate that intro, man. I might get a bonus on that intro.
Hey, you're doing some really great work, and I want to hit you on this right out of the chute here with the St. Elizabeth Covington Hospital advocating cancer screening for people. Tell us about the movement. Tell us about what you're doing in Cincinnati.
Well, thank you. It's been part of my DNA since '97 when I was diagnosed with colon cancer. It don't seem like it's been that long. But I'm a cancer survivor. Sometimes people forget that I did have cancer. And going through the trials and tribulations of being a cancer survivor, it really stays with you, and it's something dear to my heart. And when I started doing stuff back in Cincinnati, seeing the ads with St. Elizabeth, it was just a natural fit. And we kind of got together and started doing some PSAs. And it's something that I've supported for a long time, and it's something that they support. So if we could help one individual to get screened, because early detection, especially when you're dealing with colorectal cancer, early detection saves lives. And if we can get it detected early, you got a 97% of being healthy and beating it. So anytime I get an opportunity to do that, I'm always in. Why? Because that's something that's dear to my heart.
Yeah, Eric, I remember in '97, you were in Baltimore, and you had surgery. I remember them wheeling you out of surgery, and all the cameras were there, and you were talking about it. And you came back and played that season. Am I correct?
Yes, I came back in September and then played in the playoffs. And it was amazing, but it was a blessing. But the H, it was really something that people gave me a lot of credit for doing, but I was healthy. The only thing I had to do was heal from the scars and the surgery of the things that they did. But prior to that, by them removing a grapefruit-sized tumor from my colon, wow, and me taking chemo, it was really nothing that was stopping me. If I was able to withstand taking chemotherapy, which was the biggest challenge that I've ever faced it, and thank God for Eric Anthony's wife. You know, he played with the Astros, and me and him played together in Cincinnati. His wife is an herbalist, and she brewed me some home remedy teas on the stove, and I was able to take that while I was taking chemo and never got sick. So anytime you have a success story, H, is never yourself. It's always different people that come in and show love and help you. So it was a big part of a lot of people that enabled me to come back and do what I did.
All right, last question on this, because this is so important. Then we'll dive into your career a little bit. Did you feel any different that led to you to be detected and have surgery? What were you feeling sick, or what was the indicator for you?
Well, actually, I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have any indicators. We was in Cleveland, and I ran into the catcher, scored on a sacrifice fly, and almost similar to what happened in the World Series, that it just hit me all of a sudden. And then I actually played the next day, and then I played the day after that when we was in New York during Memorial Weekend. And after that day game, I called our trainer, Richie Banzel, and said, you got to get me some help because something doesn't feel right. And he put me on the train back to Baltimore. And, wow, and the ambulance picked me up from Baltimore. And I was acquitted into the University of Maryland Hospital, where I was misdiagnosed. That was the scary part. They told me that I had an abscess, and actually they was trying to get me to go back and play. And thank God for a friend of mine who I did business with in D.C. She told me, Eric, check out of there and go to University of Maryland, actually change hospitals. And once I did that, the first test he did was a colonoscopy. Now, I was in the hospital at the University of Maryland for 8 days, and they never did a colonoscopy. So when I got to the other hospital, they gave me, the first thing he did was a colonoscopy, and thank God they found it.
Wow, that's quite a story. Hey, I want to switch gears with you, Eric, and talk about your playing career. And man, I mean, we could go on a number of different directions here. You had so many huge individual years. But won a World Series in 1990 with the Reds. If you were to look back and identify your greatest season, would it be one of your best individual seasons, or would it be the year that you won the ring in '90 with the Reds?
I would say it was the year that I came back from cancer in '98. because nobody expected me to finish second in the batting title. Nobody expected me to hit 300. Nobody expected me to do those things. And to have adversity and to come back from adversity when nothing leads you or tells you that you have the ability to do that, it's more inspiring and it meant more to me. I've played on some great teams. I've played for some of the greatest managers that ever managed the game. Had some tremendous teammates and won a World Series, and actually should have won a couple more had it not been for some unfortunate things. 97 team was a phenomenal team. Actually, we went wire to wire and ended up losing to Cleveland. But the home runs and the stolen bases, all of that plays a factor. But when you can find your way, and H can speak to this, I don't care how talented you think you are or the people think you are, when you trying to find your way and you're playing every day and things are not going well in the major leagues, you wait for that first breakout season. So I would probably have to say 86 when I hit 27 homers and stole 80 bases. And it was crazy because Pete Rose really gave me that opportunity, because I was a leadoff hitter throughout my whole career with Little League and everything. And it got to a problem where they wanted me to bunt and take pitches and all that kind of stuff. And Pete gave me the green light to turn my talents loose. It was one time I bunted, I let off a game, and it was funny because I bunted and popped it up. And it came back, and Pete said, listen, man, I know what you was trying to do, but when you can get me one run in that third deck, I know you can steal bases, but if you ever bunt again, it's $100. And at that time, the minimum salary was only $32,000. So, we weren't making a whole lot of money. But that same day, he moved me from leadoff to fifth, and that's when I became the 3 and 4 hitters and started doing my thing. So everybody has to play a part in that, and I got to give a lot of that credit to Pete Rose, because he took that monkey off my back of trying to become a leadoff hitter and just allow me to be an exciting baseball player.
I was talking earlier, Eric, about wanting to play against you and see you do your thing outside of an all-star game or whatever during the regular season, right? So I'm playing in Baltimore in '93, and he's with Detroit. And he hit a ball in Baltimore dead center. And he hold his hands way down here.
Yeah,
and then yak over the batter's eye in Baltimore in center field. It may have been one of the most impressive swings I have ever seen. Do you remember that swing at all, ED?
I ended up playing with Arthur Rose, and he never let me forget it. he
off
always talked
Arthur
about
Rose.
that particular home run that hit the ivy back in straightaway center field. So, yeah, I remember it. And Arthur Rose, who I played together with him in Baltimore, and we became friends and still friends to this day. When we get together, we kind of rub each other. And I be like, if you throw hard enough, I didn't have to do nothing but touch it. So that was just one of those memorable times and stuff.
It was beautiful.
It was a great time, though.
Eric, I got to ask you, you were one of the great players in your generation, our generation. Recently, we always have these Hall of Fame committees that come back around. So I'm curious how you view the Hall of Fame. I'll just say it like this. I always say we have to look generationally. The game changes so much. So it's almost like in your decade or in your era is how they have to look at. If you're great in your generation, I think you're a Hall of Famer. So I'm curious of how you view the Hall of Fame.
I view it that way, H. I just don't view the process on how we do it as fair, because people who are in the media, and it's not a pun to them, but nobody in the media is in control of my success when I play. And I have to go out and I have to perform at a certain level. But then when my career is over, it's out of my hands and is in somebody else's hands who has the power to say whether or not I'm immortal or not. I don't think the process is fair. If the process was fair, guys who dominate their decade for whatever reason, it's crazy we have so many guys that are in the who are not in the Hall of Fame. And if you look at the criteria for shortstops, it's different because you didn't have a lot of powerful shortstops. And if you look at the numbers for the majority of the second basemen that's in the Hall of Fame, they're not astronomical numbers. If you look at Joe Morgan's numbers, who I love to death, he got 200 and some homers. You look at Ryan Sandberg and some of these guys, they are Hall of Famers at their position. But then you go to the outfield, and then you got Frank Robinson, and you got all these great players and stuff with Mays and all these guys who got 600 and some odd home runs. So if you have a solid career, which you would think that it was a Hall of Fame career, if you're judging it by the outfielders, then you're not going to ever get in unless you have 700 home runs and stuff. So I just think we have to be realistic about the process and who's in control of the process, because when you go play it, and you know how hard guys play it, and you know the respect that guys have for the game, and then to have somebody else say what they think you should be and what you shouldn't be, to me, is grossly unfair.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective. I've never heard it put quite like that. That's really impactful stuff. Hey, ED, we could visit with you all morning, man. I wanted to ask you so many more things. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Will you come back with us at some point down the road?
Sure, absolutely. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
I just got to tell you, Eric, on your way out, you broke Matt's heart big time. Because when you won that year against the A's, he was like all in on the A's back in that day.
Oh, dude, they jumped Dave Stewart, they jumped Mike Moore, they jumped Bob Welch, and it was over in 4, and it was not a good time.
If you look at that, if you look at that real quick, we had just as much talent as them. We had like 8 All-Stars on our team, and we had the guys who should have, Danny Jackson should have won a Cy Young, and you look at Tom Browning and Jose Rijo, and you look at our bullpen. Sabo was an All-Star, Larkin was an All-Star, O'Neill was an All-Star, I was an All-Star. So we had players who was comparable, but we also had more complete players who could play the game at a different level. And the advantage that we had was that we had faced their pitchers before, because Welch and Honeycutt and all those guys was in the National League. So we had an advantage that nobody paid attention to.
That's good.
And so like we really had the advantage because of all the things that I just said. They didn't know our pitchers, and once we got to the 7th inning, it was lights out.
It sure was.
History
Eric Davis.
proven
Hey, Eric,
that.
we appreciate the visit, man. Great having you on the program.
Thanks
we look
a lot.
forward to doing that again soon. Great.
Thanks,
Eric
CD.
Davis.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
seeing you, buddy.